What's going on, fam? It's Chris Anthony coming at you guys live and direct. This is going to be another collective reading for all signs. Is this turning into a daily reading? I don't know. I didn't plan this, but I guess we're going to keep it rolling. So I'm going to be jumping into the energies of recent times, but it is not a time specific reading. So whenever you pick this up, whenever you see it, it could apply to your situation at the moment. I feel it is definitely a very deep reading today, especially how the cards fell, and especially with this being September 11th. I think that plays in kind of majorly when it comes down to where the energy is and how we're coming up on this full moon in Pisces, and how it's kind of like a big shift that's happening. So let's jump into the cards and see what's going on. It is going to be a general reading. It may not resonate with everyone. If it does resonate with you, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, comment on the channel. If it does not resonate, you can check out one of the other collective readings that I've been kind of starting to do on the channel, or if you didn't catch your sign, you could catch one of those readings. And also I will have the mid-month readings coming out soon, so you guys will still get that. I'm trying to definitely give you guys more content because I appreciate the support, the comments, the love that I get from everybody, so I'm keeping it coming for you guys. All right, let's do this. Jumping into crowning your reading, we have the Two of Swords clarified by the Death card. So I do feel like at this moment there is almost kind of like a crossroads, a crossroad that you guys could feel that you're at when it comes down to maybe choosing a path or choosing a direction to go in. But I feel like this has been like a crossroad that you've been at maybe for a while, and I do very strongly feel like this reading has so much to do with your subconscious. And so subconsciously, I feel like the universe has been leading you to kind of almost like choose a direction or choose a new path, or I more so want to say walk into the next cycle of your life. More so than, choosing a direction. I feel like a lot of people that are kind of tuning into these readings, you kind of know what direction you're headed in. But it's all about this new life cycle that I feel like the universe has been kind of leading you towards, this brand new place, this threshold that, you have yet to cross over yet. So the Death card here is talking about something that maybe you've been indecisive about with ending, or indecisive about a new beginning, indecisive about a rebirth almost, right? This is talking about a transformation process, a metamorphosis, right? With you changing from being one way into a total new person, right? Or changing from seeing the world in one way into seeing it in a different way. So this is talking about a transformation in consciousness, and I feel like there is a opening that's here for you to kind of like walk into this new phase of consciousness, into this new phase of awakening, and also like of being, right? Like the way you operate, the way you view the world, the way you feel, the way you kind of compute and process everything that's happening in your life or that will happen. Even down to the new connections, the new relationships, the new places that you're going to find yourself in moving forward in life. But there could have been a energy around this transformation or going into this next cycle of life that you've been kind of stuck with moving forward. It may be something about you coming more out of your comfort zone, or maybe you have to sacrifice something, maybe you have to let go of something in order to get something new. And I definitely I'm feeling that energy a lot, because this person has two swords, right? But I feel like in order to move forward into this transformation, into this rebirth, it can only be one sword that's chosen, right? It's like two of those won't make it past this threshold, or two minds, right, won't make it past. There has to be one single-minded advance. one single-minded approach, almost like tunnel vision, like I'm going forward into this way of thinking or towards this direction. So let's keep it moving. Then we have the tower moment here, right? Clarified by the Hierophant, and this got me thinking about September 11th and everything that surrounded that event, right? I can remember it happening, and me at the time I was in high school, and that's 18 years ago, but I could definitely still remember it like yesterday, how the reports came in and how everybody started to turn on the TV and watch the news and see kind of like this large staple that's a part of our country falling down, or being on fire, or seeing the planes run into it. And whether you believe in whether it was an inside job or whether it was really terrorist or whatever, all the controversy that surrounds it talks about, the bottom line is that it really changed the landscape of our country. It really changed the psyche of the American people, right? It was almost like this shock, this traumatizing event that really changed the world, more so than America. But I'm just speaking about, in America because this is where it happened. But it really transformed us. Like after we saw those towers fall, and we thought about all of the thousands of people that were in that tower, and how much of how much a domino effect that it had on everything else, right? It changed the economy, it changed the political landscape, it changed security in the country, right? It made us even more fearful of terrorism. It changed foreign policy, with going, to other countries and going to war with other countries. It was so much that these towers falling affected for not only the year of 2001, but for the rest of, the years that will come to follow. So I feel strongly that this tower moment that's happening in the collective right now is very much so, parallel to that September 11 feeling, or this tower moment that's happening in your life. So something is kind of coming that's forcing you to awaken, even more. Because even if you think about it, and I remember, how times were before September 11 in the country, like even if you think about like the 90s, and how I feel like the country just had a different vibe and a different energy to it through the 90s leading up to this tragedy that happened, right? But after the Twin Towers, crashed, it was like almost like a dark cloud that came over the country, and it was like a time of like realism, like everything became reality. I think even before, the Twin Towers, to be honest, I don't even think there was a lot of reality TV that was happening. Like, even if you think about all the programming that was on TV, everything had to do with like fictional programs or sitcoms, or just things like that were more of propaganda, or more of an illusion, right? That you thought life was like this and everything was happy and everything worked out in the end, and everything was kind of like put into this programming that made it more structured, and the country as a whole was kind of like that. But then after September 11 happened, I started to see kind of like this rise of reality TV, this rise of different entertainment that kind of came, that was more real, that was more kind of like unprogrammed, that was more out of place, more surprising, more just people taking more risk, and it not being kind of like this structure of how it was before. So that's just one example, right? It's like it was kind of like this awakening that happened, and I think that the Twin Towers crashing had more so to do with a spiritual awakening, right? The effect of it, like I said, had so much to do with our subconscious. And I don't want to go so deep into it, but it's like this is what the energies are saying. And even with the Hierophant being here, with how September 11 came, like I said, it changed the belief systems. It started to usher in this new wave of people, not trusting the government, not trusting large corporations. It started to usher in this whole conspiracy theory phase, and how we started to look for information on the internet instead of trusting the source of news only, right? It was like this whole awakening period that started to begin after September 11, and people started to kind of leave the older traditional structures that had been in place for years and years after those towers fell, and really have a disbelief, a distrust for those larger companies or systems that were set in place. And so I feel like with September 11 being today, and with this Tower card coming out for this collective reading, this is something that's similarly happening, when it comes down to your subconscious. Something is happening that's almost like unexpected, but also forcing you out of one way of viewing the world, one way of operating, one way of being, killing that off, it falling away and you having a rebirth in a way. And this Tower moment is ushering this rebirth of a brand new, belief system or philosophy or understanding or subconscious operation inside of you, right? It's kind of like you're going to be upgrading and leveling up, but it's happening almost in this shocking type of way, right? This shakeup, because September 11 was one of the biggest shakeups, but the effects of it were so large, right? It was like a tidal wave how things started to change year after year after September 11. Some of them were, very bad, but some of them were good at the same time. It really ushered in a brand new age. If you ask me, it was kind of like the ushering into the age of Aquarius, because now we're seeing kind of 18 years later how much the world is different since September 11. And I almost ask myself, how different would the world have been if that had not happened? Almost, even though you never want a tragedy like that to happen in history, or concerning other people's lives and the people that were lost. But it's almost like when you look back in hindsight, you're like, wow, I wonder how much different the world would be if 9/11 didn't happen, or if World War I didn't happen, or Hitler didn't go, and start to do that crazy campaign that he was on, or all the big, almost traumatic experiences that happened throughout history that made the consciousness of people shift. You kind of think about how would the world have been if that didn't happen. So this is what I think is happening with the collective right now, right? It could be this major event that's happening, or this major shift in consciousness that's being almost forced upon you, because a new era is wanting to be ushered into your life, right? And so the belief systems that you hold that maybe have been keeping you from being ushered into this new cycle of your life is what's coming crashing down, right? And so it could be something externally in your life that's just falling apart. You can't stop it. It's just falling down. Or it could be something internally that's happening on that. It could be a relationship. It could be, a job. It could be anything along those lines that is symbolically holding your belief system within it. And I feel like it's being taken away so that that belief system that's connected to that symbol can be taken away, right? So let's keep it moving. That was deep. King of Wands energy, right? So I feel like after this Tower moment hits, and for a lot of you guys, it could be happening now. For a lot of people, it could be more so happening around the full moon, but we're already feeling the energies of this Pisces full moon. And I think it's going to be so powerful because Pisces is the last house, right? Pisces is the house of death, where death and rebirth, right? And this is what this reading has been talking about. I feel like this is what September 11 symbolized, like the death and rebirth of a certain level of consciousness. And so that being, in Pisces, and this full moon being in Pisces, is kind of like what's happening to force us into this next cycle. And what's happening after this rebirth happens is you taking on this King of Wands energy. And we talked about this, if you guys saw the reading yesterday, about you getting into action, right? Getting into gear, moving forward with a new mindset, with a new consciousness that almost drives you to be action orientated, to take control of your life in a certain type of way. And this was, I think, what happened around the consciousness that shifted, around September 11th. Because a lot of people had to take their control back from the controllers during this time period and during the years that followed. Like I said, all these conspiracies started to come in about September 11th being an inside job, and how the controllers, did this in a certain type of way. So there started to be a big distrust of these systems that were in place, and people started to wake up like, wow, like there is really so much control that's happening around us. There's so many systems. This really is like the Matrix. This really is, something that we have to break ourselves out of. And so I think as a whole, the consciousness of the collective started to want to take more control of their lives, by separating from the establishment, separating from the power system. We started to take our control back and studying information that was being released, right? The WikiLeaks started to happen, and I know I'm getting like very historical, and but a lot of things started to take place. And this whole era arose of people just not trusting what had been, trusted for years, right? Not believing the propaganda, not believing the programming of the news, not believing, the government overall. And so it kind of forced people into this sovereign role, I feel, overall, or started the journey towards being more sovereign and in control of their own life, and having their own understanding and doing their own research, and not taking, something as it was communicated from someone else, but finding out, the truth of it for themselves. This happened even inside of the religious systems, and how I even see a lot of people waking up from religion around this time period, and kind of like not wanting to be tied down to a belief system that they were kind of born into, right? Or it was kind of shoved into them from someone else. It's like, this is all about the control that I feel like collectively we've been taking back. And so when I see this King of Wands, I feel like it's all about proactive action, proactive steps that are going to be taken after this moment that's happening for you guys, where you're just like, okay, if I want something to happen, I need to do it myself. If I, want my life to be a certain type of way, I need to implement, this blueprint. I need to implement these actions. I need to take steps towards my goals. Whatever I want, I can have if I pursue it myself, and not, give my control, I want to say, for lack of better words, over to, just chance or happenstance. And I think we talked about this in the last reading. But Two of Pentacles is here talking about bringing that balance in, juggling almost is what I see when I see the Two of Pentacles. But it also talks about balance, right? Usually has an infinity symbol in the Rider-Waite, but it's like balancing out your life or balancing out your consciousness or your beliefs, right? You see how this King of Wands is looking at this Hierophant? The Hierophant is what's falling away, right? This set of belief systems that could have been limited, right, or limiting, and how it's going to create such a new set of belief systems or philosophies that you're ready to kind of go forward and forge for yourself and bring balance or equilibrium back into your belief system or philosophy as a whole after this older one falls away and you have this transformation, this rebirth into this new cycle, right? So Six of Swords, there is kind of like this moving away from that older life cycle, that older belief system, older philosophy, right? That smaller thinking, into this new threshold, into this new portal of being, right? Into this new portal of consciousness almost. Four of Wands, right, talks about this new level of stability, right? A new foundation that's built to build something stronger on, right? Because whenever the tower falls, it's because the foundation wasn't strong enough to support this large structure that you tried to build on top of it. And the foundation has to do with the belief system, right? Your operating system that's operating on you, what you believe in. If the operating system is not large enough to hold these programs that you're trying to download on it, or these new ideas, or this new approach to life, or your vision for your life, then it has to be upgraded. And so I feel like this is the upgrade that's happening. This tower moment falling away, right? This operating system being deleted and a new operating system coming into play. Four of Wands. That's going to be a lot more stable, where you can have more longevity, right? You can have more balance. So some people are definitely moving towards this new level of balance, this new cycle of life, this new way of thinking, this consciousness and awareness that is going to match your future more so than it did the past. And the past consciousness is no longer needed. It falls away. Right? Temperance talks about this balance again. So this is a balancing act that's coming down from the universal energies. Whenever we see these major arcanas, the Death card, the Tower moment, the Temperance, and also the Moon. And I feel strongly this is happening around this full moon in Pisces energy. It's coming down, right? It's like, okay, the balance is this brand new belief system is coming in, this brand new awareness is coming in for you, and the older one is being moved out of the way. And this, I feel like that the belief system has so much to do with our fears, right? Our shadow side, the things that hold us back from being great. It has so much to do with that area of our life, right? Our deepest fears that we don't want to face, the things that make us uncomfortable, the things that kind of, keep us from growing or expanding. The small voices in the back of our head, that whisper to us and make us uncomfortable with trying new things or taking risk or pushing ourselves, right, to grow. This is the balance that's coming in with this new moon, or this full moon that's coming in Pisces. And energetically, it is a subconscious shift. And this is what I said at the beginning of the reading. It's more to do with your subconscious. The moon card represents the subconscious. And so it's a balance that's coming in that you may not even quite understand all the way, because the subconscious world is the hidden world, right? It's the thing that operates in the shadow beneath the surface. And you may not even have been conscious of a certain belief system or set of beliefs that has been limiting like who you are as a person, right? You may have not even been conscious of it running in the background of your operation system. But this is why the planets shift, right? This is why cycles come in to bring you consciousness. And almost like 9/11, even though it was very tragic, it brought so much consciousness in with it that awoke a whole generation, right? It brought awareness to so many areas within the inner workings of life itself, right? Or societies that we lived in, that kind of made living, not the same. So this is what's happening. And this is where I'm going to end the reading. I didn't mean to do 25 minutes, but if it resonated with you, you definitely are, making this transformation. You definitely are connected to, I think, a large group of the collective that is here. And this full moon in Pisces is kind of like the climax or the total end of this new transformation that we've been kind of working for and walking towards, and maybe not quite knowing exactly what has been on the path or where this path has been leading to. But it's actually, I feel like, here, kind of like that light at the end of the tunnel where you get more of an understanding. You get the answers, to all the questions that you've been having while you've been moving forward, in a certain level of darkness, right? Or with a certain level of trust or faith, knowing that the universe, has you on this path for a reason, but you maybe didn't have all the details. I feel like the details are coming. And it comes along with this rebirth and transformation of your subconscious mind. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next reading. Thanks for tuning in once again. Later.